Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I hope that you enjoy our conference so far, and more importantly, you enjoy the buffet, the food. I guess it's an international conference, so we try to make our menu international to suit all the tastes of the speaker as well as the participants. If you happen not to like some of the food, maybe just another motivation for you to come back next year to see if we improve the food and so on. Before we start, I would like to remind you two things. Firstly, thanks to the support and the courtesy of the press and media office, this event has been going live stream since this morning. So that everyone from all over Vietnam and the world can watch the program, and also you guys can watch it again in case. I guess we will show the link now on the... Yeah, so as you see on my left is the link of the live stream on Facebook, okay? Right, and I already checked the program this morning, and we all look good on the live stream, on the camera. The second thing to remind you that all of your travel document has been stamped and ready for pickup at the reception. So please, at the end of this session, on the way out, please pick up your travel document if necessary.
Now we come to our first plenary session in this afternoon. It's my pleasure to invite on stage Associate Professor Nguyễn Thanh Tùng, Vice Dean, Faculties of English, Ho Chi Minh City University of Pedagogy, to come to the stage and introduce our first plenary speakers.
Thank you. Distinguished guests, speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce the first featured speaker for the afternoon section to all of you. Dr. Nguyễn Thị Thúy Loan undertook her postgraduate studies in Canberra University, Australia, and Suranari University of Technology, Thailand. She is now a lecturer of Division of English, Faculty of Education, Kalasin University, Thailand. She used to be an English instructor at CBLE Track, a trainer for Vietnamese lecturers awarded with the government scholarships to study overseas, and an instructor for teachers of English in Vietnam in 2020 project. Dr. Nguyen specializes in zone analysis, English written discourse, second language writing instruction and research, academic writing, ESL, ESP, professional writing with genre-based approach, citations and supporting verbs. Her publications are on the topic that can be found in some Scopus index journals. She also serves as a reviewer for some Scopus index journals, namely the Asian EFL Journal of English Studies, the German Online Journal of Language Studies, 3L, the Southeast Asian Journal of English Language Studies, ESP Today, Journal of English for specific purposes as tertiary level, and CASET Journal of Social Sciences. Besides, she's sometimes invited to give special lectures on research writing for postgraduate students and lecturers in Vietnam, Thailand, and Bangladesh. Please, together with me, give Dr. Nguyen a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Associate Professor Dr. Nguyễn Thanh Tùng, for your nice introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me at the back? Yes? Okay, thank you. It's my pleasure today to address at this prestigious forum about one of the critical issues confronted by Vietnamese writers. That's the in-text citations or the in-text references. Let me draw your attention to the very hot topic that has recently tarnished the scholarly writing in Vietnam. That's the plagiarism, which has been reported in press as the practice of some scholar and university student. My own recent experience as an editor of a conference proceeding second this reporting. When I found 2 out of 9 manuscripts I was in charge of copy with 96 and 100% of similarity to the original papers. These reflect the growing disease in the academic field that needs to be cured. And curing this disease requires the shared responsibility from all of us. Actually, there are many causes for these illegal acts in academic writing, but I feel writers' ignorance and their inexperience in scholarly writing could also account for this problem. In fact, in writing for publication, besides the writer's English proficiency, their knowledge of the writing convention in the discipline of progress, referencing, or citing really contribute to the success of their writing. The effective use of in-text citation, however, challenges news writers, especially the non-native English writers. And sorry, so sorry. The major reason behind this challenge stem from the complexities of the in-text citation practices across different disciplines and different text types, which are either not evident to or occluded from the novice writers. Today, to the courtesy of this forum, I would like to share with you my experience concerning the impact of ignoring this rhetorical feature in academic writing. And in particular, I will start with a brief review of the significance of citation, followed by the actual use by master students in the teacher discourse community in Vietnam, and with the existing problem and suggestion for helping them to properly use the citation in writing their thesis and later their academic papers for publication. So now let's start with the first part of my presentation. There are many reasons for why we need to refer to the works of other people in our academic writings. First, we refer to the other researcher work in order to show the reader how we develop our study from the insight, the knowledge, or the discovery gained by the reverse researchers. By doing that, our relevance, our significance of the study are situated, and our research is properly established in the right research context. And when we refer to the works of the author, we also demonstrate our competence in the research field. We also show our familiarity with the knowledge of the topic under investigation. And besides the reason, we cite the works of the author in order to justify for the methods, the instrument, or the statistic we employ in our study. And we cite other study in order to justify for our finding, to establish the argument and to make the new claims regarding our new findings. And when we are citing other study, we are trying to persuade the reader to accept our new claims as the scientific truth, which will be later added into the existing body of the knowledge in the discipline. So finally, we are citing, we are referring to other study, mean we are positioning, we are aligning ourselves with other established scholars in the discipline. In the simple word, in-text citations are the intellectual foundation upon which we build and we share our research work to the readers. That is why when we are referring to the works of the other researcher, we are like standing on the shoulder of the giant in order to reach, in order to achieve our intellectual purposes. Because of the significance and the importance of the in-text citation in academic writing, the writer's effective and accurate use of the in-text citation can also serve as the protection for them against plagiarism. So those are just the general significant roles of the in-text citation in scholarly writing. How about their roles in a specific text type, namely thesis or dissertation? As stated by Samurai 2013 and Chen and Kuo 2012, in-text citation assists the thesis writer to achieve the communicative purposes of each thesis chapter, because each thesis chapter has different rhetorical function. That's why in-text citation are believed to perform different rhetorical function in different thesis chapter. So now let's have a look at how the in-text citation perform in different thesis chapter. So in writing the introduction chapter, the writer need to show the reader how the research, the current research is developed from the reverse researcher. The writer needs to establish the research territory to which the current study will be situated to. In order to achieve that rhetorical purpose, the writer needs to cite, the writer needs to refer to the works of other researchers. And by that, we can see the citation are used in the introduction chapter in order to show the relationship between what is already known in the research field and how the current study contributes to that knowledge. In the literature review chapter, where the value, the significance of the current research needs to be consolidated. So in order to achieve that purpose, the writer needs to review the relevant literature in order to identify the research gap, in order to generate a research hypothesis. And from the identified research gap, the value, the significance of the current study is strengthened. So citations are used in this chapter in order to show what is distinct in the current study in comparison with those in the literatures. The purpose of the methods chapter is to report what, how the current study was conducted. So the citations are employed in this chapter just to justify the validity, the appropriateness, the accuracies of our chosen methods. And with the validated methods, research method, the results which are presented in the research chapter will be more reliable. In the discussion chapter here, sometimes the writer combines the research and discussion chapter together. So the function of this chapter is to show the value, the novelty, the contribution of the research finding into the literature. So in order to achieve that purpose, the citations are used in order for the writer to make the comparison, evaluation, and from those comparison and evaluation, the new claims regarding the new reporting finding are made. So the citation are used in this chapter in order to argue for the meaning, the significance of the reported finding. And in the conclusion chapter, where the writer summarizes the whole study, the citations are used for what purpose? For safeguarding the new claims the writer has been made in the respective research and discussion chapter. So with the varieties of functions of the citation performing in different thesis chapters, the thesis writer need to know how to use the in-text citation in order to achieve the communicative purpose, in order to help them to gain or to get the purpose of each thesis chapter. So in order to do that, the thesis writer needs to know about the citation types and functions. So according to Swell 2019, he divided the citation into two types, integral and non-integral citations. It can be seen here on your left-hand side. Okay, left-hand side, those are integral citations. The integral citations are the instances where the cited author, the name of the cited author, appears as a part of the citing sentence. But on your left-hand side, there are non-integral citations. Those citations are references in which the name of the cited author do not have any function in the citing sentence, but they are referred to in the parentheses or by the number we often see in the citation of the science fields. And Swell also added that which citation to use, integral or non-integrals, depends on the writer purposes, depend on the writer's emphasis. So if or when the writer emphasizes on the cited author, the integral citation should be used, while the non-integral citation places the emphasis on the cited message. Later study or later researchers, namely Thompson and Triple 2001, they divide the two main citation types into subtypes, depending on their contextual functions. So it can be seen here, the integral citation has three functions. The first one is verb controlling. The verb controlling citation functions is the instant where the name of the cited author appears as the agents of the lexical verb, both in passive or active form. And the writer uses this citation function when the writer would like to attribute his or her or their claims, their stand, their position, their evaluation to the cited author. The second citation function in the non-integral type is the naming citation. They are nouns or noun phrases used in order to indicate, to signify the method, the study, the instrument, rather than the human agents. And the last function in the integral citation type is non-citation. These citations is the instant, it can be seen here, in which the year of the publication doesn't follow the name of the cited author. It was just because this or that reference has earlier been supplied in the text, so the writer doesn't want or do not want to repeat the citation. So these citations is used in order to provide further discussion in their writing. Now let's come with the four functions of the non-integral citation type. So the first one is the source function. The source function is used for the writer to show where the information, the ideas is taken from. And the second one is the identification. This citation function is used when the writer would like to identify who, or we say the doer, the actor, or the agents of the cited sentence. And the next citation function is reference. With the reference function, the writer would like to give the reader the source for further reference. And for this citation function, it usually goes with the directive verb, see. And the last one is the origin. This citation function is used in order to identify the originators of maybe the research term, the instrument, or maybe the statistics. So with the varieties of citation functions and citation types, non-native English writers were found to have problems in their citation practice, as indicated by Highland 2002, Charlie Lifa 2012, Mansouri Zadat, Ahmed 2011, and Yale 2012. They found that Chinese, Iranian, and Malaysian students use very limited citation type, and they didn't know about the functions of the citation. And Chinese students were found to copy and paste it from the source material. And in addition to this, the Iranian students were found to overuse the quotation, and they simply reported the reverse study without any subjective interpretation. And Spanish students were found to avoid personal confrontation through their referred use of the non-interrogation type in the passive or the impersonal structures. So those small number of studies were conducted on how non-native English writers use the citation. Problems were found. This leads to the question, how about Vietnamese students? How about Vietnamese students' citations? How does it go? The following session will share with you my findings on 24 TESOL master theses collected from 3 universities with the TESOL master program in the south of Vietnam. And the theses were written in the year 2009 and 2012, and they were collected with the consent of the thesis writer. And beside the textual analysis, the semi-structured interview with the actual thesis writer and their thesis supervisor were also conducted in order to gain more insightful information into the practice of citation in the TESOL discourse community in Vietnam. Okay, so now let's come with the finding. Here's show the total number of citations used in each chapter of the 24 thesis corpus. And it can be seen here, there's a rate variation. There's a rate variation in the number of citations across or among 24 theses, ranging from 61 to 213 instances of citation. Besides the writer, individual writing style, the availability of the publication of the topic under investigation. In the interview with the thesis writer, it was known that the average number of about 50 references on the reference page of the thesis were acceptable for a thesis at their university. So this interview information tend to indicate that more attention will pay to the total number of the citation on the last page of the thesis rather than how they were actually used inside the thesis. Now let's come with the distribution of citation among thesis chapter of this thesis corpus. It can be seen here. Citation were found densely present in the literature review chapter, accounting for almost 75% of all the citation identified in the thesis corpus, and followed by those in the method chapter and the introduction. And the concluding chapter, I mean reason, discussion, combined reason, discussion, and the conclusion chapter, contain very few instances of citation. And surprisingly, nearly half of these last chapter did not refer to any references at all. Now, let's come to the finding on the citation type and function used in each chapter of the thesis. Sorry. Okay, so now let's start with the finding on the type of the citation. This group of Vietnamese writers refer integral citation type over the non-integral ones, accounting for almost two-thirds of the total number of citation functions in the corpus. And yes, their reference for this citation type was in line with the common trend of using the citation in the field of social sciences. And now, let's have a look at the functions of the citation used by this group of writers. The two citation functions were referred by this group of Vietnamese writers, the verb controlling and the source functions. And other citation functions tended to be completely absent or rarely occur in each chapter of this thesis corpus. However, this group, the citation used by this group of the writer confirm the claim in the literatures about citation performing different rhetorical function in different thesis chapters. Okay, let's have a look how they employ the citation according to their function in relation to the communicative purposes of each thesis chapter. It can be seen here. Is it? No? Okay. More naming. You see the second row? More naming than the verb controlling were found in the methods, reason, discussion, or the combined reason and discussion chapter, while verb controlling were found to be prominent in the introduction, in the literature review, and the conclusion chapters. The communicative purposes of each chapter explained for this difference. In the introduction or the literature review chapter, the significance, the value of the current study should be consolidated, could be indicated. That's why the writer employs the voice of the reverse researchers in order to argue for the value of their study. That's why more verb controlling functions were found in these two chapters. Similarly, in the conclusion chapter, where the citations are used in order to safeguard the writer claims regarding their finding that they made in the reason and discussion chapter. These claims could be more, or I can say persuasively, accepted by the reader through the voice, the views of the reverse researcher, of the established scholar in the field whose name were placed as the subject of the citing sentence. And the methods chapter, in contrast, mainly focused on the methods. That's why naming functions were prominent in this thesis chapter. And in the reason, discussion, or the combined reason and discussion chapter, the writer needs to argue, needs to show the value of their findings. So that's why the finding of other researchers or the works of other researchers rather than reverse researchers were employed in this chapter. But if we have a closer look at the discussion chapter, we can see that the number of the citation intents between these two functions were not much different, 30 and 34, for verb controlling and naming respectively. Again, the rhetorical functions of this chapter could explain for that. In the discussion chapter, besides comparing, contrasting, and evaluating the reported findings with those in the literature, the writer also needs to use the voice of the citing author in order to argue for the significance of their finding. That's why these two functions are kind of used equally in this chapter. And the naming were found to be present in the literature review chapter with about 2/3 of all the naming functions identified in the corpus. Again, the rhetorical functions of, or the communicative purposes of this chapter explained for this present. In this chapter, besides arguing for the value of the current study through the voice of the citing author. The methods, the finding, the works of previous researchers were also reviewed in order to avoid the possible flaws in conducting the current research. That's why they were also prominent in this chapter. And for the origin function, this function were absent in the other chapter, but in literature review methods and the results. Why? Because this function was used to indicate the originator of the research concept, the conceptual framework in the literature review chapter, and the originators of the research methods or the instrument or the statistical application in the methods or the research chapter. That's why they were present, although with a very limited number. Okay, so now let's move on to the next part. Although this group of Vietnamese writers follow the common trend in using the citation type in the discipline social science field, and their use of citation tend to confirm the claims in the literature about the different rhetorical function that the citation perform in different thesis chapter. But problem still exists. So now first let's look at their problem in using the citation regarding the functional feature of the citation. First, this group of writers shows that they did not know the function, how the citation function in each thesis chapter. This reflects through the few instances of citation in the last chapter, reason, discussion, combined research discussion, and conclusion chapter. And in the interview with the thesis writer, it was surprised to know that they believe the literature review chapter were the only place where the citation should be present. And that belief was confirmed by their observation of the citation practice in their own thesis at their university library. And they even stated that the other chapter, the last chapter, did not need the citation. And they even reported that their supervisor didn't even ask them to add the citation in the last chapter. So, what do we know from that? It seemed that this writer did not understand the relationship between the function of the citation and how they are related to the function of each thesis chapter. But in the last chapter, where their findings are presented, the citation should be used in order to safeguard their findings, in order to justify their claims, and in order to gain the reader's acceptance. Failing to do that, render their finding to be accepted, to be established in the literatures. Now, the next problems were found regarding the function of the citations used by this group of writers were that they did not know the function of each citation type. Although we found 2 citation types used by this group of writers in their thesis, but look at the way they cite. Integral, non-integral citation type were separately used in different paragraphs, reviewing different aspects of the topic. And they tended to just summarize the reverse works and integrated them into their writing as a list of a topic, rather than or without any evaluations. So this separate and descriptive style of citing reflect that this group of writers know 2 types of citation, but they did not know the function each citation serves in academic writing. And it's, in the interview with them, it's surprising to know that integral citation were their paraphrases from the source material, and their quotation were placed in the non-integral ones. And their thesis supervisor also confirmed that Vietnamese writer, their supervisor, refer to use quotation. In order to balance two types of citation, they asked them to paraphrase from the source rather than to quote. It can be seen in the extract number 6. Okay, problem number 3 regarding the function of the citation. Then in using the integral citation, the name of the cited author was not properly emphasized as indicated by Swell. We use the integral citation because we would like to place the emphasis on the cited author. But look at the way they cite, they use the integral citation, such as, or for the name of the reverse researchers. So this way of using the integral citation reduces the rhetorical effect of this citation type, would place the emphasis on the cited author. And number 4, they use the limited citation function as we see in my slide, previous slide. They refer to types of citation, and there were a few instances of non-citation function, mean they rarely provided further discussion regarding the cited, the previously cited reference, and there were the absence of the other citation function. This may indicate that they were not familiar with the two citation function. Okay, now let's move on to their problem regarding the syntactic structures of the citing sentence. First, both citation type were found in the same citing sentence. It can be seen in this example. And second, they were found, or they tend to invent it, the way they cite, especially the secondary sources. In citing the secondary sources, we use the keyword cited followed by the secondary source. But look at here, the keyword cited were used, but cited from a page, from a website, or with the absence of the keyword cited. So when we read the citing sentence like this, we didn't know which citation, second citation source was. And next, the presence of 3 question marks in the parentheses follow the cited author were found in this thesis corpus. And in the interview with the thesis writer, it was known that he did not, or he could not find the year of publication. That's why he just put a question mark. But as provided on the guideline APA referencing style, that's the style they were required to use in their thesis. If we don't have the year of publication, we simply use ND instead of question marks. But they did put the question mark. This group of writers cite the scholar name, but they were found to use them inconsistently. How? They sometimes cite the full name of the researchers. It can be seen here. And this problem became more serious when they cite Vietnamese scholar. They sometimes cite the Vietnamese scholar first name, sometimes cite the Vietnamese scholar full name, like those shown in the example. And some even use the comma to separate the surname and the other names. And besides the long websites were also found as a part of the citing sentence used by this group of writers. It can be seen here. And you see, in the first example, 6A, the long website acts as a part of the citing sentence. And besides that, this is also the last problem with the syntactic structures. Grammatical mistake was still found in the citation used by this group of Vietnamese writers. Can be seen here, and the correct grammatical form should be like this. So, with the problems identified, you may ask, what are the causes for this problem? So I'm going to share with you some causes I found from the interview with the thesis writer and the thesis supervisor. Actually, they give me many, but I just selected those that were reported by majority of the informants. So first, the problem was caused by the absence of the explicit instruction on how to use the citation in the teacher discourse community in Vietnam. Actually, as reported by the thesis writer, they said that they were simply provided with the guidelines and they had to figure out how to use the in-text citation by themselves or by referring to the citation practice in the own thesis book in their library, university library. And second, they make those mistakes because they did not know the rhetorical function of the citation in academic writing. And as reported by reverse study, the inexperienced writer cannot fully learn the subtle use of the citation by their mere reading or their simply reading of the instructions or the guidelines. And number three, I come to this reason, just as I reported earlier, due to the lack of the citation in the last chapter in the thesis corpus, and as the writer and the writers reported that the average of 50 citations or references at the end of the book were accepted in their uni. It means more attention will pay to the total number of the citation rather than how they was used inside the thesis. And together with the information review from the thesis writers reported that or told me that the supervisor was supposed to learn how to use the citation by themselves. And their main duty as the supervisor was to help them with the main parts of the research work, not with the writing stuff like using the citation. And number four is the problem was caused by the lack of the competitive environment. What do I mean by saying that? As reported by Harvard 2009, the place where we get our paper, our writing published, influences on the way we cite. And I think it's true in Vietnam. In Vietnam, after the thesis defense, the revised thesis was submitted to the library of the uni, and a degree was awarded without any requirement for publication or even maybe conference presentation. That's why the problem exists. Now, the grammatical mistake were found in the way this group of Vietnamese writers use the citation, maybe due to the writer's linguistic deficiency, the low level of English proficiency. Yes. And the last reason was reported by many informants was the busy schedule. Because they were busy teaching and learning at the same time, so they did not invest sufficient time in writing their thesis, especially the last chapter. They did not give the sufficient commitment to writing them. Okay, so with the problem and the causes behind this problem was shared, so what should we do in order to help news writer, in order to have future Vietnamese scholar to properly use the citation in their academic writing? Because citations are still occultic from the novice writer. And in the textbook for English for academic purposes, few explicit instructions on how to cite in different or in specific discipline. Why there is an emphasis on how to quote, how to summarize, how to paraphrase. And as confirmed by reverse researchers, due to the various functions of citation use, novice writer cannot fully learn the usual citation practices by the mere reading of the instruction or the guidelines. That's why my suggestion is to teach them an appropriate amount of explicit form-based instruction and also with the focus on the functional feature of the citation should be provided to them. Why? In order to raise their awareness about the relationship between the communicative purposes of the text and how the citation function or used within this. Second, with the explicit instruction, the writers would know more about the established citation practices, and in order for them not to invent their own way of citing the reverse study. And with the explicit instruction, this writer would know how to use the citation, or many ways the citations are used in their own discipline. And because the citations are reported to be influenced by the culture, by the discipline, or even by the charm, so the writer intention behind the citation use should also be shared, should also be given to the writer in order for them to learn how to use the citation properly. So in summary, in-text citations is the fundamental foundation which hold the authenticity in the entirety of our work. The stronger the foundation, the stronger our intellectual work stands in the literatures. Moreover, the effective use and appropriate use of the citation does not only demonstrate our competence, our knowledge in the field, but also protects us from the use of the professional writing. That's why it's imperative for the news writer to formally learn about how to properly use the different citation types and functions for their various rhetorical purpose of writing. And such learning, I believe, would have raised this news writer awareness of the discursive expectation in order to acculturate them into the disciplinary discourse and gradually make them become more established members in their own discourse community. So that's all I would like to share with you today. So if you have any question, so just feel free to ask, and I hope I would answer you on to your satisfaction. Thank you. Thank you very much. You would like to see the slide with the citation, the typology of citation time function.
Can you please tell us the title of the book where we can learn citation types and functions? Thomson Triple 2001?
This is a research paper. It's a research paper, it's not a book.
Do you have a reference here so that we can have a look at that?
Not now, because I just sent the list to the organizer. If you want, okay, I will give you my email and you can write to me.
Okay,
I will share with you later.
Thank you, thank you.
And you mean, I think you mean this one? It's too far to move back.
I just want to fill the time while you're thinking about the questions to ask her. Okay, so as a supervisor, I actually have witnessed the problems encountered by my master in TESOL students and also PhD students. And I use different terms in order to talk about integral and non-integral citations. And then we use author prominent citation or information prominent citation. So whether we pay attention to the author when we cite, or whether we pay attention to the information we cite. And this is decided by the master students themselves. A lot of errors in citations can be avoided if our learners read the ABA publication manual for the American Psychological Association of the 6th edition in 2010. And what you presented actually reflects the carelessness in the master students themselves. And I am really concerned about the following point, and I would like you to deal with it in your answer. So you mentioned a lot of problems in using citations by non-native English speakers, and one of them is overuse of quotations and summaries without critical evaluation. So in your research, did you find anything about this? And what about the suggestions for you in order to have students overcome this problem in citing various sources? I say it again. One of the problems you presented in using citations is overuse quotations and summaries without critical evaluation. Have you found out anything about this problem in the 24 master in teaching thesis? And what about some suggestions in order to overcome this problem of overusing citation summaries without critical evaluation? Because this is the what I am most concerned about when I supervise my not only master but also PhD students. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Hello. The problem of overusing the citation instead of in summary. Yes. Okay. Yeah, okay, I got your point. Actually, that problem was also found to be practiced by other groups of non-native English writers, not just our Vietnamese writer. So that's kind of a common problem non-native English writer students have in using the citation. That is why I suggest to teach them explicitly how to use a citation. So how to use a citation, what we teach them? We should teach them the smaller skill, the sub-skill, like how to paraphrase, how to get the point out of the text, not just copy the whole text and put in their text. So I think that's what we as an instructor should show the student, maybe through many practices, exercises. So we hope by the time the student will learn how to make use of the core idea rather than every words in the original source. And we also know that as a new writer, it takes time for them to get used to the convention of writing. But from the beginning, as an inexperienced writer, we need to guide them step by step. If not, they will partly learn how to use the citation when they leave the school. And that is a serious problem. And that may lead to the very hot issue in our country, plagiarism, I guess.
So I just want to share my experience with all of you. And this knowledge was actually picked up when I worked with my supervisor in Australia. So in order to avoid the overuse of citations without critical evaluation, Normally, in the literature review, we ask our students to follow 3 steps. Number 1, presentation of the theories. So this is what we write about the author's ideas without any evaluation at all. And then from the first one, you move on to the second one, which is about the significance of the contribution made by a particular author when proposing the theory for the first time. The second one here is significance. And the third one, we tell our students to use the theory together with the contribution in practice in order to solve the problem. So when I tell my students about the literature review, I say it is not sufficient to list key texts and state the contents of key texts. And among the approaches we can follow are 2. Number 1, show where different authors differ. And the second one, how a particular concept we examine has changed over time. So we also have the 3 in the literature review for each author. Number 1, presentation of the theory. The second one, contribution or significance or the importance of the theory. We show how the second author differs from the first one, and how the third one differs from the 2 authors. And finally, how you will apply all the theories together with the applications in order to solve your problem with exactly the same topic. Okay?
Yeah, thank you so much for your suggestion for dealing with that problem by non-native English writer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So maybe this is time to end in order for the next speaker to come on the stage. So I'm sorry if you want, because I saw some of you raise your hand, so you can ask me later when we meet outside.
I'm sorry because this is not actually a question. I just feel interested in your topic and I want to find more about it. I want to find more about the rhetorical features in a citation. So can you suggest any journal, paper, or book that I can read in order to get more information about this? Because this is also the problem with a lot of people here list me.
Yeah, thank you for your interest. As I answer to the other friends, so I will give you my contact and I will share with you via email. Write to me and I will reply your email with the list of the paper talking about that topic. Is it okay? Thank you. Is it time for me? Yeah. Talk to me later outside, okay? Because I need to stop in order to give the stage to the other speakers. So sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lang, for your informative speech. Now, here comes our next plenary speech delivered by Dr. Bùi Thị Thục Quyên. Dr. Bùi Thị Thục Quyên, please. Dr. Bùi Thị Thục Quyên obtained a bachelor degree in Vietnam, a master degree in the USA, and a PhD in Thailand. She also holds a postgraduate diploma in English language teaching at the Simeo Learning Center in Singapore. And certificate issued by Educational Testing Service, ETS, and Cengage for trainers under the project 2020, in which she served as an English language teaching specialist. Her research interests include ESL, EFL teaching methodology, discourse analysis, language learning strategies, and communication strategies. Her work have been published and presented at national and international conferences. Dr. Bùi Thị Thục Quyên is currently head of the TESOL department, Faculties of Foreign Languages and Technical Education, Nông Lâm University. And here is the stage. Dr. Quyên, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I would like to send my gratitude to the Faculty of Foreign Languages, Ho Chi Minh City University of Technology and Education, to allow me to share with you some of my experience and also the result of our project on creating an active environment for students' willingness to communicate in English. So, yeah, the content, right, of my presentation will follow those points: the introduction, literature review, methodology, findings, conclusion, and recommendation. First, I would like to talk about the rationale of the study. Right. As many of you here are teachers, and some of you are students, you may face this difficulty later, but we all share the challenge of how to encourage students to speak up in class, right? Yeah. And sometimes, right, you feel like you use certain strategies. They work in certain class, but then when you move to another class, right, yeah, they somehow failed, okay? So I think, and that's why that's inspired me with the topic. And also, meanwhile, we see that, we often say practice makes perfect, right? And as you listen to our speaker this morning, right? Yeah. We have, Dr. Pillai mentioned to us the importance of communication, right? To find jobs, right? To get promoted, and so on. And, improving communication competence is, of course, right? We know that if you want to improve your communication, you have to practice using the language in communication. And this goes with, the statement made by McIntyre and Charles in 1996. They say that you learn English, when you learn English, you need to practice the language to improve, all the skills, but also, we should pay attention. We should know that, should be aware that when you communicate using the language, then you improve your language communication competence. Then, of course, when you communicate, when you use the language to communicate with other people, right, you acquire other knowledge. For example, you learn more about, other cultures, right? You learn more about, how people behave and so on. And of course, not to mention, I mentioned this one earlier already, you can develop like vocabulary, okay, through communicating with, other people. You learn from other people, or you find the needs, right, to acquire more vocabulary, or you can improve your listening skills, right, another example. And then, especially very important, in 2008, a decision was signed by the Prime Minister of our country, of Vietnam, saying that, by the year 2020, right, most of students graduated from, when they graduate from colleges, vocational school, high school, they would be able to communicate confidently and effectively in a multicultural, right, in what we say multi-language environments. Right. So, with those in my mind, and with the difficulty we find in our university, I'm from Nông Lâm University, so this is about how many kilometers from here, Dr. Tính? And most of our students, are from Biên Hòa, and it's, they are from, they are 13 kilometers from the university, and we don't, right now we don't enjoy the facilities like this school and many other schools, we have small rooms that can hold about 30 to 45 students, but with very narrow space for students to move around because we have chairs and tables fixed together, nailed together. And then, in the front, we only have small space for teacher to go back and forth. And it is very difficult for us to, organize interesting and communicative activities. Then, with this project, we hope to somehow make some contribution to confirm, what has been found by researchers in the field. What I mean in the field here is the field of willingness to communicate in English. I will explain to you the meaning or the definition of this term later. But then, somehow we hope, with this project, with schools with, similar situation from, of difficulties in facilities, may, find some solution for themselves. Next, let's have a look at some definition of the term willingness to communicate in English. First, if you see here, we have L1 context. I'm sorry. Yeah. Started in 1985. Yeah. Markowski and Bayer gave a definition for willingness to communicate in English. And if you pay attention, here you have the word personality-based, trait-like, consistent. Yeah, in L1, they say that it is something, related to personality, okay? And then later on, when we move on to L2 contexts, right, you have more definition. If you look here, we have, readiness to enter into discourse at a particular time, and specific person or persons using L2. And we have other, researchers, right, using the term. We move from personality traits to the context, right? And we have other interlocutor, right, observable behaviors. And, it's not just, the speaker themselves anymore. It moves out to the context, the interlocutor and other things. This is the conceptual framework, that I built, based on, what I've reviewed from different researchers. Here, we have external and internal factors. And according to, we have the topic, the interlocutor, physical factors, task types, classroom atmosphere. And internal factor, research works have found, those things like personality-related factor, like, if you are an introverted person, you tend to, keep quiet. You tend to keep quiet, silent, and the people who are extroverted tend to talk more, right? Yeah. And also we have, factors such as motivation, attitudes, beliefs in L2 learning. If you have a look here, we have the teacher, right? According to Lee and Ng, 2003, right? The teacher plays very important role in the classroom. We talk, a lot about autonomous learning. We talk a lot about, self-studies and so on. But still, the role of the teacher is very important, at least to give guidance to the students. Right, so we use the teacher, we focus on the teacher, and from the teacher, we have, different activities. A teacher design activities, create a forum for students to, you know, to communicate. It's a forum for students to communicate in English. Right. In terms of research questions, our project tried to answer 2 questions. The first one, did the students' willingness to communicate in English change after the course? The course here is the listening and speaking to that the students take, right, in their second semester of the first year. Why we choose this group of students? We have 30 students from one group, and actually at that time we had 2 groups, right? We choose one group, one class, and we, you know, the reason we chose that group of students because they were just, you know, they just left high school. And as many of us from Vietnamese context, we know that at high school, teachers often focus on tests, right? Written tests, so communication is not, you know, really something important, right? The second one, what are the obstacles that hinder students' improvement in terms of willingness to communicate in English? Okay, for the research design, we employed mixed method design, qualitative, quantitative method, and also we follow what is named by Cameroon 2009, you know, the sequential mixed method design. This is one. So we have, you know, we try to understand the students first, right? What they like, what they prefer, okay? And then the teacher made decision on communication task. Then we check with the students, you know, after class, right? Yeah, if the tasks are okay for them, or, you know, was there anything we need to change? And then, yeah, we made adjustments. So this is what we did, yeah, during our project. For instrument, as you can see here, right, for quantitative data, we use questionnaire. Then for qualitative data, as you can see, yeah, the students were asked to write, you know, diaries, you know, at the end of each class to say, you know, how they felt, right? And did they feel the task or what the teachers or what they did in that lesson was effective for them in terms of communication. And then, you know, the teacher wrote her reflection after each lesson. And then we have interview. We also interview students, right? We interviewed students. Particularly or specifically, this is what we, you know, what we have, right, before the course, right? We send out questionnaire to the students, you know, the participants. Then, you know, after the course, we also have one more questionnaire, okay? And then we have week-3 semi-structured interview to get some preliminary, you know, the ideas, you know, from the students. And then, you know, also during the course, you know, as I just mentioned, you know, after each lesson, the student and the teacher wrote their diaries or their reflection, okay? So with, you know, in terms of activities, you can see here, teachers' behaviors is one part of the treatment. The teacher tried to be friendly, encouraging, right, and try to help the students, right, when they had difficulty. The grouping techniques also one part of the conceptual framework that I have shown you earlier, right? So we try to group the students in different ways, until, they felt happy with it. And for communicative activity, as you can see here, we have the inside activities. Inside here, I mean inside the classroom. And outside the classroom also, because actually many of us, if we just try to work on activities, on tasks or techniques in the classroom, the student may just be active inside when they are with you, but without you when they are out when they are out at home, for example. There's no way that we can control this. And I know in some schools, we try different techniques, like you ask the student to pay some money if they speak English, Vietnamese in class, right? And somehow they pay the money in the classroom, but how about, when they are out of the classroom? As you can see here, we try to pull out of all the facilities, right? What we can do for real conversation, right? For real conversation, we try to, choose activities that create, the gap or the communicative needs, so the student speak more, right? And also, we invite one experienced student with good speaking ability to come, right, to play with, in one session we try, right, to play with the students with different activities that show you somehow give them an example. We try to give them example that, oh, yeah, he can do that, he can make it, share, he can, actively speak English, right? Yeah, why not us, right? And also, the students, the experienced students also share with, our participants the way how to improve speaking and listening skills. One more thing, very interesting, because we found there was a group of international students studying in another faculty in our school. And then we organize what we call cultural exchange, right? So that our students had a chance to communicate with foreigners, right? And one more thing is, I should add here is that some of the activities the teacher assigned to the students is they had to go out to, for example, the center of the city. They had to interview foreigners, and they have to record the conversation, right? So somehow we create more needs for communication, outside, inside the classroom, and so on. Also, for English-speaking club, to tell you the truth, I have to admit that this is a shame, but in our school, we don't have English-speaking club. And due to some, problems with, we ask for permission and things like that, and then, the teacher who taught, this class, right, had to organize an English-speaking club at her house. Right, and actually, the English-speaking club attracted many students. Yeah, attracted many students, but just some of the students from the participants came. Right, I will tell you the reason later. And we also use Moodle, right? First Moodle, and then later we changed into Facebook, right, for the convenience of the students. And for that way, the student had to post, video clips of them speaking English, and then other students made comments, right? Okay, let's move on to the findings. For question number 1, did the student change in terms of willingness to communicate in English? As you can see here, just look at, you know, the two, yeah. Here we have the mean score, right? Look at the second one, here, the second line. Inside the classroom, before the course, after the course. As you can see here, right? Okay. And, right, then with outside, your willingness to communicate outside the classroom, we also, you know, witness improvement from student report on the questionnaires, all right? We didn't employ SPSS in this case to show the p-value because, you know, we only have 30 students. But anyway, this result was confirmed by, you know, our qualitative result. Most of the students agree that, you know, yeah, the exciting activities that the teacher used in the classroom and also the assignment for outside classroom, we have enabled them to use English confidently and naturally, okay? Not 100%, but, you know, yeah, most of them. And from the teacher's role, okay, they agree that the teacher made positive change from, you know, creating a friendly learning atmosphere, yeah, with the extra tasks, introduce an experienced student to, you know, the group and organize, she organized a cultural exchange and employed Facebook as a means of communication. So, you know, somehow, you know, our effort worked, right? For question number 2, of course, we found students who kept reticent or silent during class and just, you know, sometimes participated in the lesson, even though the teacher tried her best already with, you know, different ways. And the reasons, the causes for these symptoms were the factors from interviews, right? They somehow expressed that, you know, they said that they were afraid of, you know, speaking in front of a big group. And also, you know, from the reflection of the teacher, we found, she said that, oh, some students try to avoid my eye contact when I try to reach them. Okay, and language proficiency, some students, admitted that, oh, I didn't dare to speak up because I'm afraid of making mistakes and people will laugh at me, right? My classmates will laugh at me. Regarding external factors, okay, as you can see here, as I mentioned earlier, at my school, the chairs and the table, you know, are nailed together, so it's difficult to move, right? And yeah, the students revealed that from, you know, questionnaires and from interview that they had limited partners, only the same, you know, classmates all the time, right? And just sometimes they had a chance to talk to foreigners. Another thing, the final thing we should pay attention is the technology problems. If you notice earlier, I put Moodle and Facebook, right? Yeah, as, you know, one of the activity that the teacher made use of in this project. Actually, first we try Moodle because, you know, for as far as we learn, Moodle is good and it is popular among teachers. But then in, you know, interview and from, you know, exchanging from conversation with students, the teacher and the researcher found that there was something wrong here, because the student reported that they didn't like, Moodle. They need the internet, and it was very difficult for them to to practice using Moodle with their mobile phone. So that's why we moved to Facebook, and then finally they were happy. But this one is something we should pay attention to. Also, not from any questions mentioned, but we heard suggestion from students. For the teachers, they said that the teacher should pay attention. Sometimes, questions raised by the teacher were not interesting, so they, even though the activities were interesting, but the questions from the teacher should be, attractive, and she should be, tougher. She should have forced the students to speak English at the, some beginning meetings, right? And for administrators, very interesting, because at first we thought, okay, with the facilities like this, maybe, the student didn't like, the environment, and but they say, just one student say, okay, the chairs and the table, the desk should be separated, and one student also say, okay, I need an air conditioner, right, for my class. So it won't be a big problem. Different from our perception, facilities in this case didn't, hinder much. And then there are other, like I explained to you earlier, right? We have internal and external factors. All right, with the suggestions of the students, after that one, I would like to come to the conclusion. Okay, from this project, we found that the student willingness to communicate in English positively changed after the course, of course, right? Individual factors, motivation, personality trait, still remain big obstacles in creating an environment. And the teacher's support has a strong impact, did give a strong impact on students' willingness to communicate in English. And with, what we found here, I would like to make some recommendation for, future research and for teachers. The teacher's effort is very necessary. We don't expect, don't just think that, okay, they can improve their speaking, right, outside of the classroom by themselves, but at least we need to do something, right? And the school and faculty should promote extracurricular activities. For example, cultural exchange, right, bringing foreigners to the school to talk to students, or sending students to, another school abroad, right, for example. And for further research, I would like to suggest that, the focus should be on motivation, personality-related factors, and effective use of Moodle, right? This if other schools would like to promote or would like to create an environment for the students to be actively willing to communicate in in English or in any foreign language, Okay, so with this one, I would like to end my presentation, and I welcome question and answer from you, the audience. Any questions? From different contexts, you may have your students may have different needs, right? So, but in our case, this is, what we can do.
Thank you, Dr. Wing, for your very interesting presentation.
Yeah,
My
thank you.
question is, how relevant is WTC to the two types of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic one? Thank you.
Can you say your question again, please?
Right, because most of your ideas sound similar to those related to two main types of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether the idea of WTC is relevant or related to those two types of motivation. If yes, in what ways, and if no, how different are they? Thank you.
Okay, so willingness to communicate in English is somehow, as you've seen in the definition, it related to being ready, right, to communicate in the target language. And somehow motivation, if a student, right, are motivated, if the student is motivated, right, he or she will try to speak out and always be ready to speak, to communicate with, other people using the language that he or she is studying. And, being able to communicate with other people in the language will make make him or her more fluent. And then somehow, that's one is something with intrinsic motivation. It helps raise the confidence of the student when speaking with other people. And extrinsic motivation, I think, of course, when he or she is willing to communicate, then other people will get at least at school he or she gets higher score, right, during tests, for example. So this is one of the many examples that other people may give. Yeah, does that answer your question? Right. And I remember, one of the students during the interview mentioned that he was very busy. That was why he didn't join the English speaking club organized at the teacher's house, right? Another student said, "Oh, too far." And I was busy. Too far, and then different students, and some student mentioned, "Oh, that student, I know that some of my classmates were not very motivated because if you are eager to learn, even though you don't have the time, right, you should arrange your schedule to join the English speaking club." And I asked them, the question I asked them is that, if I moved the English-speaking club from the teacher's house to this faculty, to this school, will you participate in? So the answer is not, this answer was not very clear. So motivation is just, if you are motivated, all right, you try your best to communicate because, if you know that this is good for you, you benefit many things from that one, then you will try to do that, right? Even though you have many difficulties, right?
Hello, I'm very great to, I feel very interested in your presentation. Thank you. I have a question. In a slide of Cameroon in 2009, you say that you have 4 steps: understanding the students, and then deciding communicative tasks, and then checking with the student, and the final step, making adjustments. I want to focus on the first step, understanding the students. You said that it means we have to understand their hobbies, their interests, and then we adjust our teaching methods, and we create some activities which suit the students' hobbies or interests. Of course, it's very easy to realize the students' interests or hobbies. However, we have to balance, we have to meet the program's requirements, and it's somehow different from what the student like. Our student likes something funny, something very simple and easy to do. However, when we teach them, we need to have them to meet the standard, the outcome standard. So I think that sometimes we get difficulties to balance between the students' requirements and interests and the program's requirements. So how can we balance? Can you share some experience to solve this?
Yeah, thank you for your question. Actually, you know, I agree with you. That's true, right? It is very difficult to balance between what we have to do and what the students want. In this project, right? Luckily, we chose a listening and speaking class, so the topics were quite, you know, popular, right? And we used Let's Talk. Yeah, Let's Talk 2, book 3. I'm sorry, book 3. And you know, somehow what we need to adjust is that, you know, we add more, right? More variety to, you know, the activities available in the book. We added more. For example, if they just have, okay, talk to the person next to you about, you know, the job, and we, you know, we use different textbooks, different reference materials. For example, pair works, group work, right, by Cambridge and Oxford. And then we, you know, we selected activities that somehow created debate, or, you know, somehow that can, what we say, can make the students compare, you know, ideas between groups, and then they make presentation in front of the class, for example. So that was what we did in our class. But anyway, I have to accept that in different situations with different subjects, it may be difficult to compromise. That was why, you know, we need teachers' effort. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in the one of the instruments you introduced, that is the diary, the teacher's diary. So can you share with us something about how you write your diary as a teacher, and how you use it as the instrument to find the answer to the 2 research questions?
Yeah, thank you. Right. Especially for willingness to communicate, as you know, it is very difficult to observe, right? Yeah. We have to wait until the student, you know, speak up. Yeah, but I think diaries for teachers and for students are very useful, because, you know, they can share what they think, and we didn't ask them to write their names in this project. So they feel free to say, okay, I like this activity very much because I could blah 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 blah, right? And I suggested next time, okay, we can do something, for example, okay, and actually, if you gave the student the freedom to write. If you give the students freedom to write whatever they want to, it will take a very long time. So somehow you should put some open question there. So what did you like about the lesson today? what activity do you think is the most effective? What activity you didn't like, and then how about your suggestion and something like that. And for teacher, the teacher, if, as teachers we know, writing journals and diaries are very useful. When we look further, it serves our professional developments, right? In this case, the teacher wrote reflection, what she observed, from each class, right? For example, as I mentioned, some students still, she said some students still ignore, some students try to avoid me when I try to approach them, for example, like that. So feelings like that may be, a way, if we don't really write down. So today I tried this activity, and I feel very happy because I found it somehow made some quiet student say something, for example. So that was what we did. Right. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention and your questions. Right. If you have more questions, or if you want to know more, I know this is, a very brief presentation, then you can contact me. My email is in the, the proceeding book, right?
Thank you, Dr. Bùi Thị Thục Quyên, for your remarkable speech. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your kind attention so far. Please be noted that according to our agenda, after the break, we are going to the concurrent sessions. Please check a look at the topic of the concurrent session in your handout and join the session after the break. Secondly, for the concurrent session, the presenters should contact the technical volunteer in each room to copy their file to the computer for saving time and avoid technical problems.
And again, kindly remind you that the technical demonstration from the conference sponsor as well as the conference proceeding are now being displayed at the main door of the Grand Hall for your reference and purchase.
Okay. And now it's time for your coffee break in 15 minutes. And after the concurrent session, please return to the main hall for the rest of the program. Thank you.